Well, after a long winter break, MotoGP finally returned to give us yet another year of thrilling races, and with it, it brought some new blood, some new riders, new rookies, new bikes, as well as a new face on After the Flag.
The start of a new season, it signified a fresh slate. All scores were wiped from the board, and as the lights went up at the Losail International Circuit, the gauntlet was officially thrown down.
And what a race it was. Now, we are going to bring you all the action later on in the show, as well as a few facts I'm 99% certain you didn't know about MotoGP.
But to kick things off, we're off to meet the man that looked the most likely challenger to Marc Marquez's crown before the start of the race. Jorge, firstly, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Here we go, first race of the year. I always imagine that this weekend must feel like the first day back to school for you guys. How do you find it?
Yeah, well, with a lot of excitement because has been probably 3 or 4 months without big time, so competition. We've been riding with motocross bikes or supermoto, dirt track, etc., but we didn't have the competition, no? So now, after a long time, we come back here, and I hope to have a great season.
Feels good to finally get things going.
Of course. It's good to test, but you know, when you fight with the best riders in the world, it's another thing.
And I heard that coming into this year, you're feeling in the best physical shape you've ever felt, and you've been working with a new trainer. What have you been doing over winter?
Well, actually, I started working with Marc Rovira, who is my actual trainer, almost 1 year. Now, after Austin, we will have 1 year together. So I'm very good with him. I think he's doing a good work. He knows exactly what I need to feel perfect on the bike and to make the good exercises for a motorcycle rider. So for the moment I feel very strong, much stronger than last year, to be honest, much more stronger, much more lighter. So let's see what happens on the racetrack.
What kind of things does he get you to do? Are you cycling or running?
Well, we spend about 6, 7, 8 hours a day working, training.
No way.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sweat.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of sweat.
Yeah.
We have to take a lot of calories.
Yeah, I imagine so.
To don't get, you know, like this.
Yeah. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, I enjoy it more watching a movie or standing in the.
Don't we all?
In the sea, taking the sun. But obviously, it's not bad, you know. We are lucky. I'm lucky to have this life. Obviously, it's not everything gold, like the people can see. We have also some moments of struggling, some moments of like the injuries, like running or cycling 1 hour or more at 180 pulsations is tough. But you know, our life is good compared to other type of lives, and we have to be grateful and to be always happy, you know.
Moving to this weekend in Qatar, how important will it be for your confidence for the rest of the season that this race goes well?
Well, I think it's very important to start well, because if you start with a crash or with a bad position, you come to the second race with a disadvantage, no? And this for sure makes you being on pressure, and it's not good to be quiet and to be sure of yourself. Like last year, you know, last year I crashed in the first lap while I was leading the race, so I take 0 points. Also in Austin I make a mistake on the start, that I start 5 seconds quickly, lack of concentration. So I lost almost 50 points in 2 races, and I think for this also the other races of the first part of the season has been difficult, no? So it's important to start at least fighting for the podium. If it's possible, try to win, but at least to stay on the podium and get some points, some good points to be quiet, no?
Early in testing, you seemed really happy with how things were going. At the end of Qatar, you didn't seem quite so happy. Where are you at now coming into Qatar for the race?
Well, it's obvious that in Qatar test we have some problems. We cannot say there is a big problem, but there are small problems that avoid us to be very competitive compared to the Ducatis that they've been very fast, and to market, for example, no? We needed 3 or 4 tenths per lap, so everything can change very quickly in just 1 or 2 weeks. So we hope that after these 2 weeks, after these 10 days of the test, we can have another kind of feeling of performance. No?
Thanks so much, Jorge. I wish you all the best for the year.
You're welcome. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
At the start of the season, there are many things to look forward to as a MotoGP fan. Obviously, the first race, seeing your favourite riders again, the noise, the atmosphere, the ridiculous speeds. So we thought to awaken your taste buds even more, we'd bring you a few facts you maybe didn't know of. The riders will compete in 18 races in 2015, which add up to a total distance of 2,014.9 kilometres. Travelling at an average speed of 164 kilometres an hour, this means that the guys will be going fairing to fairing for a total of 12 hours and 50 minutes. And all of this with one of the most powerful lineup of bikes in history, with the full grid having over 6,250 horsepower available at the twist of 25 wrists. And with such high horsepower, of course, comes tremendous speed, like here at this point at the end of the straight in Qatar. And that got us thinking some more about exactly how much time the riders spent across the entire year at such high speed. In the combined races alone, they will be at over 300 kilometres an hour for a staggering 22 minutes in 2015. And during that time, they will cross the magic 340 kilometres an hour barrier 168 times. Yet what goes fast must ultimately slow down. MotoGP riders will spend around 464 kilometres on the brakes during the 18 races, at an average G-force of 1.31 G. So in layman's terms, that means for a rider that weighs 65 kilograms, he'll be around 20 kilograms heavier for that entire distance. Braking in bike racing means only one thing. Either in a race you're coming into the pit, or more likely there's a corner coming up. So what do? You shift down and you lean the bike into the turn. Shifting through the bike's 6 gears is a continuous up and down pendulum, resulting in a staggering 11,642 gear changes in races alone throughout the season. With its stop-and-go nature, the one track contributing to this number significantly is Motegi in Japan, with 1,008 shifts in the race, which works out at 42 per lap. And finally, we get to the ever-popular and unique to bike racing, getting your knee down. From lean angles over 55 degrees from the vertical is when we see riders dropping their sliders onto the curb or tarmac to feel their way around the bend. So with this in mind, over their near 13 hours of racing in 2015, they will get their knee down around 5,251 times. And like the shift patterns, it all depends on the track. With Indianapolis coming out on top this time, with the sliders being used a total of 378 times during the race. And if those numbers already impressed you, bear in mind, we haven't even taken the practices or qualifying into account. Well, if you haven't heard about the races last weekend, you're in for a treat. And even if you have, you're still in for a treat. What a race weekend we had. And joining me to talk about it is our new commentator, Matt Burt. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Brilliant. How you doing, all right?
Not bad, you?
Yeah, very well. I'm hoping actually my voice comes back in time for the next round in Austin. What a sensational first night in Qatar. Unbelievable. The perfect way for me to start my commentary career with Dorna. 3 fantastic races, a season's worth of drama almost in 3 Grand Prix.
Well, let's talk about the first drama, Moto3. I'm sure you guys were very, very excited once the grid lined up, and especially to see one young guy, Fabio Quartararo. He was the rookie with high hopes. Matt, Quartararo, I mean, he was up there for big parts of the race.
Well, he was leading, wasn't he, on the penultimate lap, and he must have had thoughts going through his mind, I'm actually going to win my first World Championship race. I think what we saw was just a little bit of inexperience there, and I think further down the line in the season, we're not going to see those mistakes from Fabio Quartararo. This was the first real acid test. He'd never been to the Losail International Circuit before, never ridden under the floodlights. He qualified inside the top 6, and throughout the race, he was clearly battling for the victory and the podium. So all the hype, all the expectation, it certainly wasn't misplaced. He didn't let us down at all. And I think Quartararo, as we've always kind of suspected, he will be one of the contenders for the championship.
I'm sure, like you guys know, Moto3 often comes down to the last lap. Matt, the last lap, and it was the experienced heads plus Enea Bastianini, who you could maybe argue is an experienced head, but he did lead into that final turn. Rookie mistake?
Well, first of all, where did Bastianini get that pace from? And we hadn't seen anything from him throughout the whole of the winter testing. He'd been outside of the top 20 all weekend. He was completely anonymous. Nobody thought at all he was going to be fighting for the, well, struggling to fight for the top 10, let alone coming through the fight for the victory. Yeah, I suppose he was outfoxed a little bit by the wily old campaigner Masbu. He certainly used all of his experience. He knew coming out of turn 16, if he was in the slingshot of Bastianini, he had the pace to come out and win that race. And Masbu, yeah, he took it on the line.
Well, Alexei Masbu took the win from Enea Bastianini and Danny Kent. But then afterwards we were treated to Moto2, a slightly strange race, one could say. The contenders, well, Sam Lowes on pole position, Johann Zarco alongside him, and Tito Rabat in third. But Matt, it didn't go to plan.
Yeah, before the race, if you just said Sam Lowes, Tito Rabat and Johann Zarco weren't going to finish on the podium, everybody would have laughed at you. I mean, they dominated all weekend. Sam Lowes getting his career first pole position, looking so strong on the speed-up package. Tito Rabat and Johann Zarco also, they'd set a really fast and consistent pace. All three of them had wretched luck, particularly Zarco. You really had to feel for Johann. I mean, he was in complete control after Sam Lowes had crashed out of second, and then Rabat, unfortunately, of course, taken out in an incident with Simone Corsi. Zarco was 5 seconds clear. He had one hand on the trophy, his first Moto2 victory, and for it to be snatched away in those circumstances was really cruel. Interesting to see how he rebounds from that, really, because that was a real crushing blow for him.
Rides of the day, and I'm sure you guys will agree, we have 2 of them. Jonas Folger, Alex Rins. Thoughts?
Yeah, Alex Rins was absolutely sensational. I mean, he dropped all the way back to 20th place on the first lap, obviously caught up in some early chaos, but the way that he rode to come back through the field was not the performance of a rookie. In the second half of the race, sometimes Folger was actually the quicker rider. He just didn't get the start to get away with Zarco. I'm sure if he had done, then we would have seen a much closer battle at the front. Of course, Jonas Folger, I think himself said last year, didn't he, when he took those first podiums early on in Le Mans and Mugello, it kind of put some pressure on him, and he found it quite difficult to deal with that. But yeah, this season he might be another dark horse for the championship.
Okay, we're talking about pressure. We're going to move on to MotoGP now, Matt. Before we speak about this, guys, we're going to have a look at these highlights once more. I'm sure you've all been waiting for it. An absolutely spectacular race.
Round 1 of the 18-round 2015 MotoGP World Championship.
Dovizioso got away well, so did Dani Pedrosa from the centre of the front row. It's a great start by number 4, Andre Dovizioso. He's going to lead the field into the first corner. Marquez is at the back of the field, Nick. He ran off at the first corner. And there is Marquez now, scything his way through the field. He picks up Alvaro Bautista. Lorenzo swarming all over the back wheel of Andre Dovizioso's new Ducati GP15. Jorge Lorenzo moves. He takes the lead on lap 2.
This is amazing to see the 2 Hondas so far down, isn't it?
Marc Marquez has made it by his teammate Dani Pedrosa, lap 12. Dovizioso moves out and passes Lorenzo to take the lead. Is he going to make it stick this time? We've seen him run on a couple of times. Dovizioso in the lead, 4 laps to go. Rossi underneath Lorenzo at turn 4. Rossi now on the charge. He doesn't want Dovizioso to get away. It's an all-Italian fight now at the front. Here we see Andrea Iannone taking third place off Jorge Lorenzo. Is Lorenzo's victory challenge over? Rossi through on Dovizioso at turn 12. Is Rossi going to kick off the 2015 MotoGP World Championship in style with a victory?
Here we go, the run to the line. Has Rossi done it? Valentino Rossi wins here in Qatar.
Valentino Rossi, an 83rd Premier Class victory, the 109th of his career.
Well, an absolutely sensational last lap, a spectacular win from Valentino Rossi, and what a fight from the Ducatis. But Matt, what for you was the biggest surprise? Marc Marquez's errors, the Ducatis that they're back, or that a 36-year-old put up a fight like that?
Well, I suppose you could say it was only one of the three. Marc Marquez, we didn't expect him at all to make a mistake so early in the race. I spoke to Bradley Smith actually, and he was saying he was surprised. He watched the video back and couldn't really understand why Marc got kind of sucked into the corner like that to run off the track. But of course, Marc Marquez dropped all the way back down to the back of the field, gave himself mission impossible really to fight his way back through. But the story for me of the first race has got to be Valentino Rossi, beginning his 20th year in the World Championship. He just looked like the fresh-faced 16-year-old that arrived in Shah Alam way back in 1996. It was vintage Valentino Rossi, rolling back the years, fighting through the field.
Ducatis, lots of you guys, I'm sure, will be so pleased that we now have 3 manufacturers in MotoGP, and obviously once Suzuki gets that as well, fighting it out. But Matt, Ducati, I mean, they really are back.
Absolutely. You really thought that for a long period of that race that Andrea Dovizioso was going to finally break that long barren run. We haven't seen a Ducati on the top step of the podium in MotoGP since Phillip Island, way back in 2010 with Casey Stoner. I think the GP15 now, the crucial test now, will it work from track to track? It certainly looks like it did. Dovizioso, he could not have done anything more. The best second place of his career by a long way. But as you say, Dylan, it's just fantastic for MotoGP. Valentino Rossi wins the opening round of the championship, and Ducati, 2 bikes on the podium. Of course, they were great in qualifying as well. 3 bikes in the top 5, so it looks like, as well as some really intense rider competition this year, we've got some real big rivalry as well between the manufacturers, with Ducati coming to fight with Honda and Yamaha.
Well, look, Matt, thank you very much for that. I'd love to stay here and keep talking with you about all this stuff for a lot more time, but I think we've got to give people exactly what it was they switched on for. And I think we should start heading into the last lap at exactly this point out on track.
Can Dovizioso catch him? There's a very simple answer to that question. Yes, he can. So Rossi's got to try and open up some sort of advantage. We're into the last lap of an amazing opening round of the championship.
Rossi and Dovizioso going at it hammer and tongs. Rossi runs it a little bit wide through turn 2, pulls it back. Dovizioso, he's not giving up at all. Rossi still in the lead.
Up towards turn 4, Rossi leads the way, the right-hander at the top end of the circuit. Dovizioso right behind him. He knows if he can stay this close, he could bring victory for the GP15 Ducati.
Coming up to the twisty sections of this Losail International Circuit. This is where the Yamaha normally works incredibly well. Rossi knows he's got to open up a gap. The anxious Ducati management look on. Claudio Domenicali, the Ducati boss, on the right.
Rossi still holds the advantage. Dovizioso, though, has him in his sight. This is where the Yamaha performs. Can he open up the advantage? The 9 times world champion, 36 years old, fighting off the challenge of Dovizioso. 1 MotoGP victory to his credit.
Rossi 10th to 2nd last year. Is he going to go 1 better in 2015? It's all going to come down to this last 4 or 5 corners. Rossi accelerates through turn 12. He's got a little bit of a gap now on Dovizioso. Dovizioso though comes back. It's going to go right down to the wire this first race.
They race down through the final one of the right-handers, down towards turn 15. The final left-hander. Is the gap big enough? Can Rossi just open up the advantage? Turn 16, the final bend approaches.
Here we go, Rossi now peeling into the right-hander through turn 16. Has he done enough? Valentino Rossi now powers that Yamaha into the straight. Dovizioso trying to get in the slipstream.
Here we go, the run to the line. Has Rossi done it? Here comes the Ducati. Valentino Rossi wins here in Qatar.
Valentino Rossi, an 83rd Premier Class victory, the 109th of his career.